All right, there we go. The recording is
Excellent.
is underway.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes from the meeting of August 18th?
Yeah, and as I said last time, if anyone, trust me, I won't be offended if you have any changes or corrections. I'm happy to make that.
No, I think I was fine with them. I motion that we accept the minutes.
So before we start, Phil, just because I have more experience with this than you do, so we're going to call the meeting to order. So this is the September 22nd Capital Planning Committee meeting, and we are participating hybrid. So we have James Thatch in person, and then we have Phil Sipley and Jesse Curl remotely, and then Select Board member Mike Goddard, who is liaison to the committee, participating in person as well. So this is a hybrid meeting. So we're going to do roll call votes for all of these, and this meeting is being recorded.
Nice entry. Thank you, Jeremy.
Of course.
Okay, with that noted, we were talking about the minutes of August 18th. And would anyone like to make a motion to accept those minutes or any comments on them?
I'll put forward, this is James Thatch. I'll put forward a motion to accept the minutes as is.
This is Phil Sipley, I second. Do a roll call. Around the team.
James Thatch, aye.
Phil Sipley, aye. Jesse? I don't think we can hear you, Jesse.
He might be coming up the stairs. Hold on just one moment.
How about now?
I got you.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Sorry about that. I've been talking up a storm. It's probably better if my microphone doesn't work. Jesse Curl, aye.
Perfect.
Okay,
Motion passes.
The minutes of the August 18th meeting have been accepted. Jeremy, thank you for getting the documentation out to us all. And I think to expedite this, you have the planning documents. Hopefully we've all had a chance to look through the matrices and put our individual weighting factors on them. And maybe, Jeremy, if you'd step down the document, if that's the way you want to approach it. And then you were going to record, I believe, based on our last discussions.
Yeah, certainly. So what I shared with the group previously was what the previous prioritization was, and then I said, here's an update from our department heads, and my goal was here tonight to get your new prioritization and then bring department heads back next Monday, and say, what's the real deal. So I shared a blank document. Somebody wrote in the blank document, and we'll go through those scores to prioritize what we find to be the prioritizations here. So what I want to do here, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Sorry, I'm going to find what I shared with you all for our prior. All right, so I just want to share what our prior scores were. So when we talked about, can you all see my prior project prioritization?
I see a bunch of things now, but not that.
Whoa.
I did for a moment, but then Jeremy, now I see,
All right, let's see.
That was my fault. I fixed it. You guys should be good.
okay. Quit playing with the dials, James.
I am, trying to get it so we can actually see it. We're having that issue like last summer.
Can you see now? I'm sharing an Excel spreadsheet.
Correct. Yes.
All right. So this is previously what the capital planning working group, capital planning commission had shared as the prioritization. So we said SCABA, which is self-contained breathing apparatus, turnout gear, Providence Road, culvert replacement, supplemental road repair, PD, which was fleet replacement for the I believe that's sergeant, maybe detective, but PLF 5. And then some fire stuff, senior center expansion, library septic, as we roll down. So this is what we were prior, and then we are now going to go through what are our. So somebody filled out the blank one without saving it as their own, but we're going to go through what we have now as our project priorities. So what this is attempting to do is saying we're going to have our free cash certified at the end of the month here, and then we have all of these project priorities that we've talked about prior in the capital planning commission, and how do we prioritize these for a special town meeting coming up, versus all the other priorities for our town. And these are one-time expenditures, largely for greater than $25,000 and a useful life of more than 5 years. And that's been our priority. We have department heads prioritizations that are in these, and then we have, let me circle back to these. We have these prioritizations: regulatory mandate, employee engagement, funding source, operational efficiency, economic development, community-wide development, service disruption, and public safety and health. So this is our matrix in which we are measuring these against. And I've asked every member of the commission to say, let's measure these against all of these. So our task tonight is to go through these individually, and then go through each of these as a project, and weight them against those categories.
I think a lot of these numbers is subjective. So the matrix can be very subjective. So I don't know that going through each one of them is going to be the best use of time. I don't know. I don't find this matrix to be as helpful as maybe some others do. So.
I guess I looked at it as a way to normalize requirements around things like safety, operational needs, and priority. So in some respects, it gave us a target. The end result, I think, we could fine tune the final numbers, but it's a method. You have another method you like to try to approach?
This is the current method. I think maybe. Do I have a better method off the top of my head? No, I'm not sure that this is really taking into account. It just doesn't, it seems very subjective. Like you can, off the top of your head, throw in a 1 or a 3 and it throws it out. It's all however you felt that day when you were ranking things. It just doesn't feel right to me. But it's what we have and it's what we're doing. So
Well, to your point, though, after we get through this process, and I think for the next cycle for the select board, maybe a follow-up meeting, and after it gets through the select board with this method, let's take a look at any other possibilities. I know you'd like to
Yeah.
try to get the tight measurements, but it's difficult since we haven't had a measurement system in place.
yeah, exactly.
And I'm open for that as an action item we take up after we present our recommendations and discuss.
And what I was trying to focus on is all we're going by the summary description page, or am I missing something? I sent an email. Are we missing the actual request from the department head? And I'm sorry, I'm very nasally and stuffy today, so sorry for that. I've been sick for days.
No worries. So I believe if I may, Phil, so the requests all come in and then get compiled onto that spreadsheet, which is in, not Teams, sorry, in SharePoint. And that's, over the past year or so, that's what's been able to kind of give us at least a base understanding of where to start from. So like from the physical, the actual requests, that may come in as an email or something to Jeremy or something else, or the department head may do it directly in that SharePoint, which was our initial goal, was to get them to do the input. So what data they put in there is really kind of what we got. Now, as we do this ranking, we then, following this, have the opportunity to sit down, hopefully with both department heads and select board, to then have a broader discussion, because yes, there are variables we won't see. But yeah, what we've got in that SharePoint site's what the department heads have put forward. And Jeremy, I know some things also come to you and come in, so if I'm missing something, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, definitely. So this is our starting point, and then so my goal was for here tonight to say this committee, what's our priority, what do we want to focus on, and then from here invite department heads next Monday. So what's today, the 22nd? So say
Okay.
it's on the 29th, say what's the prioritization from here? What do we think is a priority for this committee? And then bring department heads in on next Monday and kind of question them, say what's the real cost, what's the real prioritization, what's the whatever it is you want to kind of dive down on or drill down on, but that's next Monday for sure.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I may, I think I heard Jesse talk. I think what I'm hearing is there's sort of maybe a lack of objective data in terms of to make a decision again. So maybe there's another parallel action here in the sense of looking at the original form, which is what James is describing in SharePoint, to say, is this the right data to collect at the point of request? So, maybe something, Jesse, to think about is what is the type of information you might be looking for, not necessarily for this round, but for the next round, and say, what are those additional enhancements we can make to the form collection form so that you have more information
Right.
next time at this point.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, this is a learning curve for all of us. So, I think taking notes and learning from this first go around is all the best we can do.
Hey, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to start somewhere. And this has been growing over a couple of years, but it's each time we're going to refine a little. That's a good thing. But yeah, I'm good if we want to go, section by section.
I think we should step through it, Jeremy, so at least we're at least somewhere. And if we made an attempt to go through it, then at least we'll have a consolidated list and we may have some good highlights to talk about what we want to talk to the department managers on next Monday.
should, there's already been sort of a cut at this, for lack of a better term, of what, as a whole, people generally think are the highest priorities. So should we start with what has already been determined is higher priority than others? So then we know for sure, uh, without spending too much time, we know for sure which department heads we want to have in.
I would say no, because I think on this one, and it may be the pain of growth, but at some point we have to kind of hit each project. So we have to take at least a quick look through each one to be able to say yes or no, we agree with where
Oh,
that sits.
I didn't say skip, I meant order.
Oh, okay, my apologies.
But yeah, however you want to go through, I'm fine.
Yeah, whichever word doesn't matter.
So we've got some ones we've discussed at length before, and then
Some new ones.
probably more than a handful that are new to fiscal 26.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it to the committee how you want to go through this.
I guess what we said, we're just gonna step through it, I think, quickly on each one. And maybe do a consensus of what our thoughts were if we had a chance to think about them. And
Right.
then as we hit the new ones, we may have more deeper discussions. And I think I had some questions on the new ones I didn't quite understand.
Sure. All right. So in terms of all right, so do you want to go through what the matrix is here in terms of weighted scores, or
Sure.
do we want to go through this a different way?
I'm thinking, why don't you take the weighted scores the way they are now and see if people, because I think if I looked at the list, Jeremy, it was very much close to the list that was, I don't know who put the input in. I don't think I did. But it looks very much like the weighted averages that we had from our last meeting to close the business last year. I don't know if someone else, they look like they were pretty much on target of where they were before. So maybe we just step through it. We say, example, senior center came in at 27 points. I think at a blank one. Okay, if you want to go blank one, we can do that. We can step down through them.
Yeah, so I asked folks to save this as a blank one, to save this as their own entity, and then we'll fill it out as a kind of weighted average sort of thing.
Okay.
So if folks want to tell me what they
This one I'm familiar with, so why don't I tell you about it, and then you guys can chime in. And I'm open for any suggestions or input. Regulatory mandates, it is an ADA, it needs to be an ADA compliant and emergency center. So there are some regulatory commitments or requirements if it stays as an emergency center, which it is today.
I had it as a 1.
I had it as a 1 as well. Employee engagement satisfaction. I believe we need it, the center is needed, and it's, I have rated as a 3. It's a dysfunctional building.
What is this, a study to look at a new building? That's
No,
what
I'm
I'm
looking at the requirements for a
No.
new building. We've had numerous studies, we're in the process of another one. I'm looking at a new building requirement. That's what the department manager put in place.
okay.
And the note in her notes was that the last acceptable to cover all programming was at $13.2 million.
So just as a reminder on that employee engagement satisfaction, that's really the premise on that is to look at it from a town employee's perspective and their working environment.
Right.
I think I had it as either a 1 or 2, stand by it. had mine as a 2. So, I mean, I know I recognize you're writing 3, but I wasn't far off of that.
Yeah, I guess the reason I say 3 is we have people placed in the wrong position to be able to function in the tasks. The administrator in the primary area, the inability to be able to do multiple functions simultaneously. The inability to check in people appropriately. Can't get in and out of the basement easily because there's no access from first to second floor. So some of the elderly people who take care of the food pantry go out the door, down the ramp and come around the garage to get in, while another person goes down and unlocks the garage. So people who volunteer there and the employees, I think I rate it as a 3, but I'd go 2 or 3, but 3 because I see the inefficiency of the place constantly and the.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've got 30 of these to go through, so I think 2 is reasonable for that.
Funding source, we had funding source before, so I'm assuming there could be, I rate it as a 1.
Yeah. No
Same.
more than.
Driving operational efficiency, I had it as a 2.
I did as well, although I'm going back to read the specifics, but yeah, I think I had that as a 2.
And then cost neutral, there is none, so I had it as a 0.
Same.
Community-wide benefit, the new facility would provide a broader base for the community. I had it as a 3.
I did as well.
And service disruption, I have it as a minus, oh, excuse me, that's my notes. I have it as a 2. And that's based around inability to run simultaneous programs.
Just so I remember, service disruption, service delivery issues. I had it as 1. But I might have been looking at it more from if this project doesn't go forward, are we still able to provide the services?
Yeah, I tend to agree with James.
Okay, I can go as a 1. I had public safety, health and welfare. I've viewed that now higher than I did before as a 3. The reason being is that we just had great debate on the veterans program and we're limiting the access to that. The building itself is not safe as it stands. So I think it's a health, welfare and safety. And if we can't outreach to a broader population.
What do you mean the building's not safe as it stands?
Well, we'll get into the porch thing, but after a contractor come and evaluated it with the dry rot, it's not a safe egress. Excuse me, I should be more, the egresses aren't safe within the building to code.
So I had this one, in my brain went between 2 and 3, mostly because this would be the emergency shelter. And with the current size and capabilities in that building, we are limited on what we could do as an emergency shelter. So this project would, significantly enhance public safety.
Would agree with that as well.
And it's your primary location, all so safety net, outreach.
Yeah, it's very true.
I think that's the health and welfare. That's where I go with health and welfare.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd almost go 3 on that because that is, there are a few touch points where we hit more people and that's one of them.
I promise I'll try not to talk a lot. Doing my best.
Yeah,
Please contribute. All right.
Yes.
So we'll go through there. Okay. Van replacement. When we talk about mandate, they're not much.
No, the only thing, my comments about the van is if we can incorporate the van into some kind of fleet operation, Jeremy, that's more town-wide.
Yeah. So as we look at the matrix for this, it is it's not imminent. So I don't want to spend a lot of time ranking its relative worth.
It's.
Because
it's
we're talking about
it's
fiscal 28, maybe.
28.
28, yeah, I'm fine with 28. 28, we're gonna need to solve the problem. As far as ranking, it's like any other equipment, piece of equipment gets obsolete, right? It was brought
Yeah.
into service in 2012. So it'll be 16 years
So
old.
can we like have an override instead of going through each one of these? Like if it's low priority, just override and make it a lower priority so we don't waste time giving everything a number on each and every line item.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it affects the employees. It's not for me to rank.
Well, currently the thing runs fine. In 2 years, we need to just look at replacing these when they reach their life expectancy or whatever. This is saying it's an 8, some number. And I agree. And I think this is a 2028 proposal.
Yeah.
Plan replacement. So I think that's far enough out that we don't need to dive into it today.
Yeah.
I
Yep,
think vehicles, Jeremy, in general, we should probably come up with a cookie cutter template almost. That
Yeah,
provides,
and
it
and
kind of
with
stands.
yeah, agreed. We need a vehicle program writ large, which we're gonna tackle with the we've got a National Grid fleet replacement schedule that we're gonna write.
Yeah.
All
Right.
right. So on the storage shed, this is a more immediate need.
Yeah.
At the
And
bottom
this
line,
is not the same as the um highway department shed.
Correct.
This is the one that we're actually renting from across the street right now.
well,
So
we're renting
yeah,
it.
there is a rented unit at the senior center right now.
Cost us
Across the street.
$2,300 a year. No, it's in the backyard.
Oh, but it's from the people across the street.
I have no idea where they
No.
require it. I don't
No,
think
it's
so.
not.
Oh. Okay.
And I guess I looked at it as a priority somewhere around 8 overall.
I guess a shed
It's a shed,
like I don't 20 grand for a small shed is double what it should cost. So I don't like this is the thing. I don't know any details. So it's like
if you get
if you
one of
told
the,
me
if you price these out, which that 20 grand was based off of. I
like
forgot the dimension size of it. I think it was a 24 by 12 or something. It comes in around 20 installed. From a shed company across the street.
okay.
The only reason I look at this as a 5-op alternative is that right now it's cost us 2,300 a year. And the question is, do we want to spend 20,000 near term? And invest, it's a 10-year return on investment for some number of years, 9 years.
I mean this is the what we talked to the employees about over at the meeting is like, okay, what are we really using the shed for? Um, do we need 2 sheds?
Actually, there's 2 and there's a small one. There's 3.
But
That's the inherent nature.
my
of
my
it.
answer to everybody when they say they did what they did because they did it last year is we're looking forward. So I always ask, why are you using that? I don't. The fact that they always have used it doesn't mean anything to me.
I agree.
So
I agree. I know that in the sheds, they have medical equipment, supplies.
is that the right place for medical equipment? These are the questions that I always ask, and then sometimes half the requests fall off because you just ask questions that seem to steer in a different direction.
What we can
I
raise
think
that,
that's the value that we create rather than giving our subjective thoughts on whether something should be a 1 or a 3. That's
What
my point.
what's the current shed being used for?
current shed is being used for storage of medical equipment. The rental medical equipment, not rental, giveaway stuff we have. wheelchairs, crutches.
And then
Also-
what's the,
and
what's
also
the,
can-
and then what's the proposed additional shed being used for?
It would be used for the same purpose, so long potentially. I think there's also potentially out there, Jeremy, some of the disaster emergency management stuff.
So is the proposed use of the new shed for equipment we currently have? Or
Yes,
is it
would also-
prospective new equipment?
No, it'd be for what we have, it's just replacing. the
So
rental
where
one
is that current equipment? If it's for equipment that we already have, where is that equipment being stored right now?
In the shed and in the garage.
Okay, so it's currently being stored in the shed. So this new shed, what,
It doesn't give us a new dimension of anything, right? It gives us a little more room to put the things that are in the garage into the bigger shed.
and then what does that free up in the garage for you? What would you do in the garage if we had this new shed?
I guess there'd be more room for the crafts activities where the people were putting scarecrows together this weekend. And where we build boats and we have crafts and other activities coming out of the center's garage.
Okay.
There's several events that get based out of garage activity. People work down there from all sorts of different things.
Okay.
Jeremy's timeline on the senior center study, and I would, from a select board standpoint, I'd step back and say, doesn't make sense to do any sort of new structure on a parcel that may not be there in the long term.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what I was trying to tease out. Like, is there a current functional use for this space that will be freed up? But
It depends on, once we see the study results in anticipation of when we may do something different. If we're looking at a 1 or 2 year problem, I would say don't invest in this thing. If we're looking at a resolution in 4 to 5 years, it would make sense to alleviate the overcrowdedness in the garage. And it'd almost pay for itself.
I think most of the kind of senior center functional questions are TBD.
That's fine. I mean, we can go there with that. We need to figure out, but
Bill, when's the lease time for? You've already paid for an annual lease. How long, when does that lease for the current shed run out?
it's quarterly, it's continuing quarterly, can take it out any quarter. There's no long-term lease.
Thank you.
This seems low priority to me.
It is. I mean, I rated it pretty low in the matrix.
All right, we're talking about fire pickup support too. So this is the truck that they used to plow and whatnot at the fire department.
And that's scheduled for 2023 replacement.
Do you mean 2026 this year, this budget year?
I thought I read in the notes, did I read it wrong, or 2020, 2030?
I'm gonna mute myself, sorry.
Yeah, 2020, 2030, right. So this is a low priority from the fire department. So in terms of our exercise tonight, not prioritized.
Correct. I go back to the fleet comment and operational budget, Jeremy, by the time we get to this.
All right, fire department needs analysis. So this is something that the fire department wants to say, do they their current space, does it work for them?
So a feasibility study to analyze whether this is right or something different is better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can, a select board member that thinks this is the timing is very good for this one. I'm surprised to see 100,000 though, Jeremy. Is that really the number?
I think the number's high.
100,000.
Yeah.
That is inputted by the department head.
Gotcha.
So it's negotiable.
Yeah, I mean, a feasibility study. So we can contract with anyone for a feasibility study, and we set the template. So we say if we want it to be 75,000, it'll be 75,000, and the product we get out of that will be reflective of how much we spent on it.
I think there's, sorry, Jeremy, I think given the multi-year budget discussions we've been having, so that planning, I think this actually is kind of a need to know sooner than later to kind of flow into the multi-year process we started to talk about.
I would agree with that, Mike. I'm just questioning the price. I think it's a high priority. I look at it this way, not necessarily a high priority in numbers on this matrix, but I think it's something that needs to be done sooner than later. And I just question the price.
Are we saying our needs analysis costs $100,000?
I'm not.
No, that's from the department head, but those can range anywhere from pretty cheap to a lot, depending upon what you're desiring. The ones that we worked for the rectory was a grant that we got for 25K. And we're evaluating the stuff that came back, and that was an excellent price, and we got good data. I also believe, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we do it at 30K or less, we can sole source it based on current mass law. Once you go above that, you have to do the 3 bid, at least for feasibility.
Yeah, so if you have a design project in which your construction project is estimated at $300,000 or more, or your design is estimated at $30,000 or more, you need to do a competitive bid. So our construction would be estimated at more than 300,000, so we would need to do a competitive procurement. But it would not be necessarily cost based. It would be what I'm trying to say, not needs based, but qualifications based. Thank you. So we would need to do a competitive procurement for sure. And I did this in Attleboro for a combined public safety complex, and we were at 150,000 3 years ago, just for the design. So to say the design right now would be 100,000 just
But
for fire.
You're talking two different things. Design is very expensive, but needs analysis is not.
Correct.
Sorry, feasibility. So the feasibility study for a combined public safety complex was $100,000, and that was 4 years ago. So to do a feasibility study for just a fire 4 years later, $100,000 is probably on the high side, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
It's not too high.
Now, it's totally reasonable.
And that would go out to bid anyway, so maybe we could squeeze it down.
It wouldn't be out to bid. It would be a qualifications based procurement. So we would say, this is our budget, this is what we want, and then we would interview folks, and then we would do a negotiation with the firm who we identified as the most qualified. And if we couldn't come to terms with them, we'd move to the next. But if we put the budget in the request for qualifications to begin with, you're kind of truncating yourselves to who's going to apply.
Well, yeah, at the end of it, well, that creates that's a different thing that I'm not quite used to in the government sector.
Yeah, but we would not be going to the lowest bidder. We'd be going to the highest qualified person who we could agree to on terms.
Highest qualified would be fine, but I don't know that necessarily I tell them you have 100,000 as your range. They should be able to tell you template wise exactly what they can provide for dollar ranges based on their experience and their expertise. But that's a different issue. I think it's an important thing we do, to Mike's point. So from a priority standpoint, we should go ahead and proceed with it. My only question is, the select board, I would hope, would question the $100,000 in the bid or the qualifications, something.
Yeah.
And the select board will defer to TA on what the right number is in that process.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Well, that's fine, whatever.
I think what's the thing on that one, Jeremy, is where does Jason prioritize this within all the fire asks?
Let's see, what is this list? Maybe she didn't put a dark department.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is on the higher end of priorities, so we just don't agree with the price.
Right. And if you go through the matrix, it'd be difficult.
So that's what I'm saying. We can't
It's
say
hard to
that
cut.
in the
you can't-
matrix.
And the matrix wouldn't show you, wouldn't get you to the priority you need to be. But this is something we should be doing to get it into our long-range planning.
Right.
This gets us in front of the curve instead of behind it.
Okay, so my question is, half sounds like we're abandoning our prioritization matrix to just pick things that are either fiscal year present or needed, or things that by description are presenting as high priority.
Yeah, I think it should be two, right?
I don't know that that's the right thing,
Why
though.
are you banning the matrix? You lost me on that.
We've already deferred 2 or 3 different things, which were at least on our list to address by the matrix process. And I think deferring is fine, but if we're gonna say something is high priority, we still need to go through and
No.
plug the numbers in, to make sure we identify that.
I think we can back into a number that gets it to the appropriate priority. If you need to use the matrix, I'm fine using the matrix to get there. But what we're saying is this is a high priority item. This fire station needs analysis. So make the matrix say that it's high priority. I don't care.
No. I'll tell you this right now, if that came before the board and I was sitting there, I would question the hell out of what I just heard. The idea of the matrix is to make an objective across relevant projects, so, you know, I throw caution to that.
That's
approach.
fine. It just like we all agree that this is high priority. So
One of the things we did, just to add to some color from last year's experience, right? We took some items that were lower in the priority list and funded them with ARPA and free cash because it made sense for and the select board and Jeremy made those decisions along with FinCom. We supported it as a committee saying this makes sense to do it, even though the priority, I think when I did the priority on this 100,000, I'm somewhere down around 9 or 10, right? Because it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, but prioritization should be funding source agnostic.
Well, and just one point, what I just heard was last year when I was involved, this is then intended to prioritize projects against each other. It doesn't necessarily mean this is the order they're going to be executed in.
correct.
So there's a difference there, right? I mean, they
There
could be
is.
high priority, but we can't afford to, like the culvert. That's high priority. We got to get it started. But we know we can't fund it through capital right now.
Correct.
So this is to kind of take everything in the basket and kind of give you some sense of what is important relative to each other. Not necessarily the execution order. But that was the original intent. How you guys want to change it? That's cool. But clearly I've done it.
Which is good. It's very good and important.
Okay, Jeremy, if you go through this exercise as you were doing, right? Employee engagement satisfaction of 3 probably is appropriate. That's what I had.
Funding source 0, right? We're just
Right.
I
think it's a 3 on operation. I mean, if it was done, it would be a big 3. Of course, it would
Operational
be.
efficiency, sure.
Yeah, of course. Community-wide benefit would be a 3. I mean, these are obvious things.
Well, unclear.
service disruption, it would be a 3 too. I mean,
I disagree.
meaning it would eliminate service disruption.
But
So
to
I
me,
think that
sir,
We don't know we have
Doesn't-
service disruption today.
it would.
that's my point, is, are we meeting the mission needs today? Are we going to meet the mission needs even if this doesn't get built? And, Jesse, to your point, this is the department heads can be able to answer that better for us, but it at least helps us to kind of
Right.
compare each one.
Yeah.
Equally.
It's, right. You can look at service disruption 3 different ways. That's why this matrix is tough. But
Good stuff. You're right. That matrix we can work on afterwards. Jeremy, your swag at it's not bad.
Yeah, what we had for the definition was the requests that address town service delivery issues where the service cannot be performed or has no alternative solutions.
oh, in that case, then 1 is appropriate. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is turnout gear. We are replacing current turnout gear, trying to fund it with free cash to. So this is the fire department. We're trying to use
Yeah.
free cash to say, year over year, let's get new turnout gear. So regulatory mandate. It's not mandated. It is best practice, but it is not mandated.
Uh,
So I had this as a 2 on my.
Yeah, I had it.
I have a 2.
I had it
I
as a
have that
3,
as an
but-
I don't know because I don't know.
But if it's not mandated, a 2 is reasonable. You do need the turnout gear to make your people effective.
But it's got a 10-year lifespan, right, Jeremy? So we're smoothing out we're doing incremental switchovers. I thought we rolled it into the operational budget, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Should become operational is my note after this
So
year.
what's in operational is we've added the new turnout gear. So for as we add new folks, 40 grand a year is the new turnout gear, but then replacing the existing is the capital expenditure.
Okay.
We can
It is
only
both-
assume
It's both
employee.
and.
I can only assume on the employees, but I would assume 3.
Yes.
That's what I had. Yeah.
3 was what I had. Funding
It's just
source,
us. Funding
Yeah.
source is just us.
Okay.
So
operational efficiency would be a 3 because it makes them efficient. Correct? They don't have to wait for the clothes to be cleaned. Go to the next
Yeah.
emergency.
that's funny. I had 1 because we were going to do it anyway. So
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so-
I look at it
Right.
this, if you have turnout gear, it's 2 sets of it, right? Because that was the goal. So if your 1 set is being cleaned, you still could go to a fire in your next year. Thought. So I don't know. 1's fine.
I agree with 1.
Cost neutral says normal, 0.
yeah, definitely no.
I had 2, 3, 3 for the following just because. Whatever you think.
3. Yeah, there's like Jesse said, there's always ways to look at it on multiple sides. The community-wide benefit is less than it is for an individual's benefit for, convenience to work their shift and have the set, but it all plays together. So I'm good with that. Fire UTV trailer. That one I thought. Maybe I missaw. Wasn't sure which fiscal year they were looking for that one.
Looked like 27.
Yeah, so they're looking in the next funding cycle. I mean, regulatory mandate. There's no mandate. It's a nice to have.
Have we ever needed one?
I'm sure it would have been nice, right? Like, so maybe one in terms of, but
I guess I have two questions on this one, Jeremy. And we can go down the priorities. Employee is always going to be good. Don't like to have it two, it'd be a two, but I'm thinking, how many times have we ever needed one in the past? Has the environment changed where we'd need more use of it? And is there mutual aid because we do a lot of mutual aid everywhere else. So that
Yeah.
was my questions.
So that would be a great question to bring to the fire chief for next week. So I'm going to invite the fire chief next week and we'll talk to him on the 29th. I feel that's the same way. Yeah, I feel it's the same here. We can go a little bit more generous.
Oh, yeah, you want to do this one? If you want to fill it out, we could be, I'd say I said a two for satisfaction. The employees know they can go do stuff, get things done. There's no funding source, right?
0. Yeah, nothing.
And then I think I had two for drive operational efficiency, because if they had to go swim or hike in, it would be harder rather than going in with ATVs. Cost neutral is a 0, so.
Yeah, I'm good with the 2 on that and then 0 there. And I was trying to think, like usage wise, I think we used them for the Inman Hill forest fire. That was a couple of years back. We can double check with the chief. So I'm pretty sure we actually have used them, but frequencies, a great question.
Then. Yeah, community, well, yeah. Service.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you on one there. It's kind of one of those, if we haven't used them a lot and we're meeting the need with what we have, I don't know if we would be any higher than that. And same kind of with the service disruption.
Yeah, I couldn't qualify, so it's hard for me to, not knowing the use or the frequency.
Yeah, so let's invite the fire chief on for next week and we'll be able to do that a little bit more in detail.
Sure.
So the highway backhoe, so this was I'm gonna delete whoever is in here. This was the highway's highest priority.
Okay.
Okay, so that's their highest, that's good to know. And I'm assuming the one they have doesn't work very well.
Yeah, it's
Last legs.
it's costing a lot to maintain. So in terms of regulatory, nothing. There's no regulatory.
Yeah.
Employee satisfaction, one or 2 maybe.
Yep. I had it as 2 because if the tools don't work, they can't be very satisfied.
I agree with
Funding
you.
source.
0%.
Funding source. That's definitely 0. Operational efficiency.
I think I had that as I had that 2 as well. So the employees can't work, that means they can't be efficient. I'm assuming that they need to replace because it's broken most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, this may be I don't remember what it is, but a 2028 maybe, but it's going to be soon that they need replaced
I
back
had
a
it as a
little.
20, I had it as a 26
2026. Yep.
from the notes
This
that I gleaned.
This is soon for highway. This is a thing that they need relatively soon.
Yeah, so that's a hot one for 'em. Cost neutral is a 0 as usual.
So,
Yeah, community-wide benefits gonna be pretty high when you think about their response to doing things like Providence River blowout or something like that, or getting something back up and running. I almost put that as a 3.
Yeah, I had 2s for the 3 of them, but 3 bottom ones, but I guess I'm good with anything that's a high priority. I understand the need. If it's something that keeps breaking, we keep paying to just limp it along, doesn't make sense.
so I'm gonna go 322. It's what we use to reset so stormwater
Yeah, yeah.
catch basins. Yeah, we
That's
use it
important.
every day.
Yep.
I used it to dig holes. For water test.
Oops.
And one chipper. He listed this as a priority of 3.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this
thought
this can. Yeah, we'll take this up next year. This is not fiscal year 26 priority.
Yeah, it's a 2034, I thought.
Yeah.
Correct. 2034.
So let's move on. Turbo air compressor.
It's a
Was
2030.
that the same, James? Yeah, turbo air compressor. Yeah.
Yep, same
Yeah.
thing. So priority 3, 2033.
Yeah. In terms of tonight's discussion for this, that's Province Road culvert. This is my 100% first priority. This is what I think the town should fund. We are doing it on a number of different entities. So we have $100,000 grant from the Mass DOT for the design of a small bridge repair. We have $116,000 grant from DER, the Department of Ecological or Environmental Restoration, to do, small culvert repair. And then we're angling for a $500,000 repair on the construction side from DOT for small bridge repair. So
Did
this
you
is
say $500,000 grant, not repair?
$500,000 grant
Yeah.
for the repair. Yeah.
For the
So
repair. Yeah.
so we're probably all in for about $2 million, and that's $700,000 in grant funding to be able to do it. So
Yeah.
this
Good
this
point.
is rightly on our capital project plan, but we're $1.3 million in local funding for $2 million worth of projects.
And in
Um,
the summary sheet, Jeremy, I thought it was already indicated as appropriated for 26.
Yeah, so we appropriated $300,000. So at annual town meeting in May of 2025, we appropriated $300,000 for design. And that $300,000 being offset by about $216,000 worth of state funds. But it's still going to be.
Well, was that state funds we already used? I mean, is that part of the funds you talked about earlier? 100,000 and 116?
Yeah, so that's the 216. Yeah. So we appropriated 300 and we have 216 that's going to offset that. So I'm very conscious. One of my main tasks is being conscious and
And my summary,
managing that capital stack.
and my summary was like 30, I came up at a 35, which made it very high.
Yeah, so I'm super willing, and I hope we go through this. So let's go through this right now.
Okay.
But this is my number one priority.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we all agree with you
Yeah.
on this.
So I'm gonna lead the witness here.
Okay.
So
So
Wait a minute, what did Jonathan pay you off on? I'm okay. Oh, public hearing, yes, I know.
So regulatory mandate. So the road's gonna close if we don't do it. So
so 3.
3, yeah. Employee engagement satisfaction. Maybe 2. It's not the most important thing for employee engagement.
Well, if it blows out again and we
Two's
have to
fair.
put a police detail there routing folks around, that's gonna bring morale down.
2 sounds fair.
All right, 3. Funding source. This is either 1 or 3, and it's 1. So if it's a $2 million project and we have over $600,000 in funding,
That sounds 3 to me.
that's if it's binary 1 and 3. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Operational efficiency. This is actually in terms of towns. I think it's 0. We don't actually derive anything from this.
Yeah.
Well, it'll make a complete mess if for the highway department, won't it?
Yeah, that's a toss up. I mean, you could throw one in. I don't.
Well,
I'm
here's the
concerned about
definition. Requests that contribute to driving efficiencies in the town operations, hereby driving down expenses.
It's gonna drive up expenses. We just talked about police details.
I just don't want to bastardize the process by saying 33333 for
Yeah,
everything.
no, I mean, all I'm saying is it's not a 0.
Yeah,
It's at least a 1 or 2.
I had a couple ones in there and then 3s at the bottom, right? I had
32.
333, and then I had a couple ones in the middle.
32.
Yeah.
Just to kind of make,
But it was especially with the bottom threes because they're priority threes.
at the end of the day, we'll throw steel sheets over it if we don't buy it, right? I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
So it's not like the whole world ends. It can't be 3333333. Is my only point.
Service disruption could be, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
they're
guess-
down.
That's 39.
Actually, you got some environmental issues, this whole thing blows.
True, we definitely have environmental issues.
All right,
And you got this.
Oh, environment, the world will stop.
that seems appropriate. We can move on.
Yeah, I don't mean to short circuit the process, but yeah, it's the most important thing for me, and I think it should be the most important thing for the town.
I think it's important. I agree with you. I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
We agree that the most important thing to Jeremy is the most important thing to the town, Phil, is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. On this particular item only. So recorded. Each item on a
Yeah.
own weight. Go ahead.
All right. If that was the case, we could just end the meeting right now. So
Highway storage shed.
So the highway storage. So we appropriated money at town meeting for the highway storage shed, and now because we placed grounds within highway, they want a little bit more room. So
It's a new ask.
yeah. So this is do we want more room for that? So we appropriated $60,000, and we do what they're asking for would require a foundation, which is more money, and it's probably about another $50,000. So it would be that $100,000 give or take, to do a fully fledged space for them.
And they use it for storage for the Parks and Rec stuff?
Yeah, so it would be all of the ground stuff, which currently is housed kind of haphazardly in various parks spaces. It would now be wholly and professionally housed in a ground space at highway.
Well, I mean, you're not going to take a lot of that stuff away from the park. Like, you're not going to take stuff from the beach and bring it down to the highway department, right?
They have it in the old fire building.
I mean, I guess it wouldn't be beach, but it would be the mowers, it would be the trimmers and everything that is currently housed in kind of stacked upon itself and not necessarily professional sense for parks, and then do it in a unified sense for a grounds operations.
At the permanent place for the ground, I mean, Jeremy, we've had a lot of conversations about possible parcel reuse, things like that. I think that sounds more permanent solution.
Yeah, this would exempt 8 Morrison Drive as a grounds facilities kind of workshop space. And if we were to use that, and I'm not putting the cart before the horse here, but that is not our Council on Aging, permanent solution going forward. it is an administrative one for highway and parks, if anything. So this would put the operational and maintenance kind of piece at Providence Street, Providence Road, for highway and grounds. Yes.
It makes sense if they're gonna put
I-
the stuff there. And then there are some things that were listed for parks that we wouldn't have to, we would put a lower priority because it's all satisfied with this thing. Because they had a building that they wanted to build in their new request. Which we'll get to.
Jimmy, I would just say there needs to be a more full-fledged view of what you're describing, because there's been a lot of ideas about what to do with different buildings, including the old senior center, et cetera, as it relates to parks. I think I would, I think the board want to see a picture of what all across town, what are the expected municipal uses in these different buildings we have? We start investing in permanent structures. And even just a workshop, high-level picture, but it feels like we've got another, I think you mentioned Morrison Drive might be a potential administrative building for parks. I mean, I've seen people draw pictures of that. I don't think we've had any discussions on that. And I could see that the fire study could actually take 8 Morrison Drive into a training center for the public safety. So there's a lot of things out there. I caution on permanent structures right now because I'm not comfortable. And I don't need to be comfortable for this meeting. You guys do what you got to do.
Sure.
I'm just sort of telling you what might come before the board when it's presented, because that's.
Okay.
Got more meat, Jeremy, makes me nervous.
If I'm reading the spreadsheets correctly, the department head's perspective, he's got this at a relatively high priority. He's showing it as a number 1. And he could list it out, Providence Road as a 1 and, replace Backwood as the 1. So at least from that perspective, and that it's this fiscal year, I think we still do need to scrub through the matrix on this one.
Yeah, let's do the matrix. I mean, that's what we're here for. I don't think there's any mandate for it.
So,
No, I don't think so either.
It's pretty clear, considering the employees want it, that it's a high employee
yeah, it's a 2 or 3.
number.
Yeah, I would say probably 2 from employee engagement. Oh, even 3, yeah,
For employees, yeah,
sure.
a professional, well-built storage facility with lights, but not to.
Yeah, talk about making winterizing easy. That's true. Yeah, 3. Funding source 0.
Funding source is 0. Hard to argue with operational efficiency. It's at least a 2.
Yeah. Yep. Not cost neutral though.
0. I don't think it's a community. I mean, maybe
Maybe a 1.
you can go back and forth on this, but how to answer this, but I think that's a 1.
Yeah. And talking about it from the service disruption, we're still meeting the mission needs today.
Yeah,
We did
compared to
pivot.
where we are now, it can't be more than a 1. I don't think anybody's gonna notice if there is or isn't a permanent structure there.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Awesome.
And then health, safety is 0, right?
Yep.
All right. So we're talking about supplemental roadway funding. This is something that the town has funded at $250,000 each year. This current year, fiscal 26, the state has funded an additional $100,000 in Chapter 90 roadway funding just upon roadway miles. So the town has received. I can find the dollar amount, but received in excess of what it's previously committed. So is this something the town wants to continue to supplement with free cash each individual year? Or is this something that the town wants to put to an override to folks to say, do we want to continue to do roadway work? It becomes kind of a political question on roads versus X, Y, and Z. You know, all the other things the town wants to do in supplemental. So I just want this committee to think about roads as a this investment in roads as a supplemental piece. So this is not the town fulfilling its minimum obligation. This is the town fulfilling its kind of additive.
My feeling is that the town puts roads way too low on the priority list and puts other things too high. So I would put roadway funding as high as I can,
I
because
would agree with you.
I think the roads here are atrocious.
I think the $250,000 annual thought.
If anybody wants to drive up Misco Road, feel free. You'll see why I say our roads are atrocious.
There's a bunch of them.
Jeremy, question for you. That 100,000 that's coming from chapter 90, is that expected annually now, or is that a one-off?
So it is 100 million from chapter 90, and it's part of the bond bill, not the regular appropriation. So it is not expected annually. So for us, we received about 90% more than we typically would, 80% more than we typically would. And it's because it's just based on road mileage. So chapter 90 is based upon road mileage, population, and employment. And then the supplement, that's 200 million. And then the 100 million supplemental is just based upon road mileage. So it helps rural communities more. But that's part of the bond bill, not part of the regular appropriation. So, you know, whether it's in next year's bond bill or not, TBD.
Yeah. Okay.
Point of context on the 250 it was intended to be a 3-year commitment to align to the original or the last pavement study that was done. It was part of that process.
Yeah.
Don asked that if, given chapter 90 plus supplemental 250 year, what could we get done based on their findings?
Yep.
So this was the 3rd year. We've funded it twice. This has been year 3 of that plan. And I think we're gonna hear about it on Monday, Jeremy, next week or next Wednesday, on where we stand on the plan. But it was tied to that study, so how that forward, we'll see.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the highway superintendent will be at select board on the 1st on Wednesday to talk about what are we doing with roads. So that'll be informative about it, if the town gives another 250, what do we do with it?
And for that next Wednesday, Jeremy, I'm assuming we're gonna have kind of discussion on chapter 90 funding and what you just talked about, but also current state of our balance sheet in terms of, are we able to expend all the money we now have allocated, appropriated on an annual basis, or are we actually seeing overflow, things like that? So that 250 could be more, could be less based on John's ability to actually expend the appropriated dollars.
Okay. But this also still sounds like this is the 3rd installment of this kind of cycle. I don't want to say we as a town would be shirking our responsibility if we didn't move it forward, or at least have those harder questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I think I agree with looking at the history of this over the past couple of years. We're trying to correct it. And I'd like to try to go forward and listen to John, but 250, if we can afford it, I think we should move forward with it.
Let's input this matrix in, make sure we're tracking smartly.
There we go. I had regulatory, because you gotta have roads, I had it high. I don't know why I did, but I had it too. I don't know if there's a regulatory mandate to make the road safe, but it felt like there should be.
You know what? I appreciate that, Phil. I hear you on that. Capital, so required projects, capital purchases driven by statutory or government decisions. Well, I mean, technically, we're getting more funding for doing roads, so when you look at it from that perspective, government decisions to say invest in roads. So I don't see why a 2 wouldn't be appropriate.
Employee engagement, I had it as a 1, we could make it higher. But,
It's funny because I say a 0 on regulatory mandate because there is no mandate for localities to supplement Chapter 90 funding.
yeah, but
it-
there's common sense when you fall in a pothole. I've blown out 2 rims already in the past 3 years.
But that's
I know.
there's no mandate. So Chapter 90 satisfies our obligation for minimum funding for roadways. So the regulatory mandate for us to supplementary fund roads, in my opinion, is 0.
Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
I see that.
In our rewrite of our matrices, we may want to consider expanding that to say what's safe, what's practical and safe for the town, to be included in the mandate. I hear what you're
Yeah,
saying,
and
Jerry.
I think that comes down to public safety, health and welfare, or service disruption, or community-wide benefit, or something like that. But in terms of regulatory mandate,
Okay.
we have
Okay, I'll buy that.
we have a 0 mandate. to do
Okay.
this.
I'll buy that. Employee satisfaction, they've got to be happier if they fix the roads.
I don't. This is one of the matrix questions that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a geeky point. I would put this at a 2, from 2 perspectives: plowing and from fire and police movement. So
Yeah. All right.
good roads makes a safer place for our workers.
Funding source is 0.
yep.
Operational efficiency. Less patching,
Yeah,
Yeah.
a 1.
one maybe.
It's hard to.
So I think here's where we see, economic development, community-wide benefit. These are the big numbers for us.
I think all of these are 3s. So. Every one of them.
I think we're 3-2-2, but
I'm just voting all 3s. You guys can do whatever you want.
push back. This is what I put in. Push back.
I think the economic development, if the roads are good, people may want to invest, so I would put that as a 2, maybe not a 3, because it's not cost neutral. / economic development.
It's
Yeah,
definitely
but-
not. It's
Community
not
benefit, I
cost-neutral.
think is 3, no question about it, just based on my flat tires. Service to disruption, 2, I'm good with that.
I think you guys are too low on those.
I agree. Public safety, I would put it at 3. Health and welfare, that last one. And I can see that economic development point as being a 2 or 3. Service disruption, that's tricky.
If you want to take a vote, feel free, but I think they're
Yeah.
3s.
Sorry. All right, let's move on. We've got so many more. Dump truck replacement. Mandate 0.
Yeah.
What's a 28 requirement?
Yeah, can we defer that one if they're just looking for a couple of years down the road?
Sure. Window replacement, same thing. It's not important in the interim.
A question on that window replacement though, Jeremy, this is one that's just been, it's one of those drag-ons that go on forever. That was roughly a $40,000 cost, is that correct?
It's $40,000 for the engineering. It is.
Oh, God, I keep forgetting.
It's more expensive than anyone is willing to come up with, and it's also not a problem now. So-
You answered my question.
Yeah.
I had it as a 6. I didn't have it real high. I was just, I thought it was low hanging fruit, just get out of the way for 40 grand.
No, it's $40,000 to think about it.
No, I'll keep it at my 6. Oh, I'm sorry.
So right now we have a ground truck that is not necessarily end of life, but we can possibly replace it with EV. I'm gonna vote to move over this right now because we have a EV replacement master list sort of thing. So we're working with a consulting firm right now to say what makes sense to be an EV replacement or not.
Concur.
When you say EV, does that
Like-
also mean possible hybrid?
Yeah, so mostly plug-in hybrid. I don't know if it means
I mean,
Gas and
if
electric.
you're gonna go all electric, leasing is the way to go, not buying.
so we're using a National Grid sponsored consultant to say, and it's a holistic approach to say when are they garaged, how many hours a day are they run, are they take-home vehicles, when did you initially buy them, when do you plan to replace them, how many years or how many miles per year do they do? So it's a holistic vehicle assessment, and this
Yeah.
truck would be placed in it.
So the answer is probably you should lease, not buy an E EV.
But I'm
Yeah.
good to defer this until that study or that evaluation happens.
So Isabella, our green communities analyst, our conservation agent is driving that, but I don't have an answer on that.
I guess I'd defer these until we figure out what we're doing.
Same with PD.
Okay.
Yep.
Town hall renovation completion. I think we should just ask Dan Byer to come next Monday because I don't have a great sense of what that means.
I don't know what it means either, but we need to get it finished, don't we?
And that has to be defined what finished means.
That's true. We need a final punch list, Mike.
Town hall vault inspection, that involves the town clerk. So inviting the conservation agent, the parks commissioner, and then the town clerk to come talk about that next Monday.
That's 25,000.
Fire chief, inflatable boat and trailer. So this is to respond on Nipmuc, Lake Nipmuc.
Okay.
And is that our, that's we don't have a boat right now.
We do not have a boat. No.
So he wants
In
25,000.
Yeah, I was going to say in terms of the capital plan, this is relatively short money.
Sure.
Um,
And especially when we talk about a percentage of one's budget, this would be, this to me is almost, I don't want to say an operational budget, but it's not a life, well, it's not a life cycle thing yet. It would become a life cycle thing if it becomes on the books.
right, because we're talking 20 grand, 25 grand for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way you do as operationally. But you're right, it's a small item. If we don't have one, we should.
Well, no, they couldn't take that out of our operations budget to buy a boat. It's a capital expense.
I think there's ways we need to, in operational budgets, like the police department has set up their guns, they buy guns, munitions, and vehicles. They have budgets they do on an annual rotation. And, you look at things like this thing here, this dump truck and all these other miscellaneous parts that the fire department needs. I think we should try to move more and more of those things into operational. If there's a new piece of equipment or something new to perform a job, then it should come to us, but then it should be more like, we're gonna replace this boat in 10 years, but it's part of your fleet. I'll call it fleet. It shouldn't-
Well, I think in that case, then each operational budget needs to have its own reserve line item for such things so that it's funded every year with a reserve. Otherwise,
I
they're
would
not
love,
going to have it.
I would love to get there, Jesse. We're not quite there.
Yeah, that would be the best place to be. Doesn't Dave do something like that though, Jeremy? David?
He does. So he does in terms of his regular fleet replacement. And there's a question from Carl. If we'll take it. So
Yeah.
Carl.
My reading, I'm Carl Hummel, 15 Misco Road. I'm newly appointed to the Finance Committee, so I'm listening how things are going. My understanding is you're saying what a stabilization fund is supposed to be. Every year you vote to put money into it, majority vote at a town warrant, and then when you want to take the money out, it's a 2/3 vote. Now, doing that for every single fleet item, that would be tedious. So that makes it more likely that we come up with the fleet plan where you say, here are all of the things, van 2028, backhoe 2030. And then every year there's some money to put, there's a majority vote to put money in and then a 2/3 vote to take money out.
Awesome, thank you. No, and I think there's a lot, as Jeremy said, we're not quite there with where departments can link in with their current budgets and how that's gonna be. One of the discussion points that we had last month was also about we have an interim need to meet the current town's timelines with schedule, but then where do we want the planning committee to be looking, for that larger planning perspective? But it was a very good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's something that, well, Jeremy, you can keep us posted on some of these fleet ideas you're looking at, but going to that, here's a fleet budget that we forecast ahead and then we appropriate out of, that would be phenomenal. You could do it.
I mean, Phil, I think we've talked about the fleet, the rotational fleet. It still remained a capital item. The source of the funding was the levy. So it was still kind of looked at by this committee or the working group when we were doing the working group. So it doesn't take fleet out of the capital process. It's just looking at the levy, Chief Kersey's case, as the funding mechanism for his cruisers. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think as we get more mature in the process, funding targets or funding, I know it's a TA, finance and select board decision, but that type of funding direction or target as we mature would be helpful to the capital planning group, right? We know Dave has a process and we do see his requests.
Yep.
But nobody else has a process yet. Okay.
So I think that puts us forward to the various field irrigation projects, if I understood, or if I'm missing something.
You're right. I think it moves us to $105,000. We had 3 of them, I think, 2 or 3 of them. And I guess we were looking to do that over 26 and 27.
Yeah, so in terms of funding sources, so if we want to short track this, so the various field irrigation projects, this is going to be jointly funded by town meeting general fund sources and then revolving fund sources for the park. So it's important for this group to prioritize it, but it's not going to be solely funded by free cash.
Awesome.
Okay. Well,
I
it's not a
Yeah.
mandate.
Nope.
I had it as a low priority based on, not knowing some of those things. But go ahead, Jeremy.
Can't answer the employee funding sources is 0.
Well, funding
funding
sources
is,
is a
yeah, I
one.
don't, That's what I was trying to figure out, if there's already other sources which the expectation is to tap.
That's the intent of funding source.
Yeah. So like if there's a grant, if there's something else, then that would be a one.
And that's a positive.
That's a
right?
positive,
Yeah,
yeah.
defrays costs.
And
Is
from an
it-
employee engagement perspective, I mean, if, although a small group of employees, it probably reduces what the requirements for watering and other things would be across the fields. So it could make their job easier.
So I guess I don't follow the funding source part being a 1
It could CPA is available.
for irrigation.
And I
I
thought
believe so.
Parks revolving account was available.
The Parks revolving account, that's where they take money in for all the summer programs they run. They have money that they can allocate back
Oh.
to maintaining facilities.
Oh, okay.
It's just, I don't know, it doesn't cover the whole thing, but they do have some funds, I think.
All right.
Each student or each kid pays so much, or parent pays so much for the kid. Employee engagement, I guess that's a 1 or a 2, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Drive operational efficiency. If the stuff's taken care of, you don't have to fix it as often. And it's true with grass. So that'd be a 2.
Yep, agreed.
If we go to cost neutral. That's a toss up. I don't know what, is that a 1 maybe because we're getting some of the funding from Dan's budget and from his income?
I had it as a 1.
Okay,
Maybe more from like a town economic activity. If you've got good fields, you're gonna wanna have more sports coming in, so. It's kind of, you're bringing in different communities when you take care of or make sure those fields are in condition.
Hmm.
Yeah, maintenance cost goes down if the system's working right, very true. Yeah,
community-wide benefit I had as a 2.
I agree.
I don't think it's a huge benefit, so I'd say 1.
Okay, I mean, I'm either way, there's a benefit because kids don't come home all bruised up, they play on grass instead of gravel.
I'm fine with either. I'm fine with 1. 1's fine. Although I like that justification. I think that should be our new logo.
I tore my knee up on some bad turf, Phil, so I feel the pain.
Yeah,
Like,
I patched too many kids up when I was coaching in this town. Service disruption, I had none because they're gonna play ball one way or the other.
yep, I agree.
Health and public safety and health welfare. You could maybe, I don't know, I talked about those bandages, but I had 0 down, but you could put a 1 there maybe. I don't know, it's lower than it. We're having so much fun now.
Oh, yeah.
Should we have voted on the boat?
I thought we deferred it to when they actually came and talked to us, but maybe
Oh, okay.
because of the dollar amount, but
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah, you
I
bring it
can't
up.
see that being a low number. It's pretty high priority to me.
A high priority, agreed.
all right,
Do you want
let's, I
to
mean,
do you want to talk about it? Do you want to do the vote right now?
yeah, let's put it in.
Sure. I don't think there's a mandate, but I feel like there should be a mandate that we have a boat when we have a lake. If someone, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it is, but it seems like it should be.
We'll have to ask the chief on that one. I don't know. And I was in the Coast Guard, so that tells you something.
Carl knows.
Carl,
Now I'm going to switch hats. Vice Chair Conservation Commission. We would love to have a enforcement officer going around in a boat, looking and seeing whether and doing an inventory of sand beaches and docks, so that we could then send out polite notices to people saying, "We don't have a record of you having filled out the paperwork for a dock. We suggest you think about it."
Interesting enough, I don't think I'd vote for that one. No, I'm like,
Yeah.
We hear you on that one, Carl. I don't know that we could hornswoggle the fire into agreeing to do that service. And for what they're asking us, I don't think that's gonna fall into their purview. But we hear you, and I like that's it's a good question.
Once the town owns a boat, you could loan it to a code enforcement officer for a day.
you could check my fishing license. I'm sorry.
Very
Okay,
true.
moving on. Inflatable boat, employee engagement and satisfaction.
Probably pretty high. Not gonna have to get into pricings.
I would assume it would be of a great assistance, so I can't say it wouldn't be a 2.
At least a 2.
Two's good. No funding.
Nope.
Operational efficiency,
That seems like,
it's gotta be a 2, 3.
I mean, that's got to be at least a 2. Community-wide benefit has to be a 3, I would think. Yeah.
Jeremy, have you talked to Chief Bangma about this one in any detail?
It's one of his priorities. So we'll bring him next week to talk to the committee about it.
So I would think frequency in terms of need, like how many calls have they had to answer? So, I mean, if you need it because we have a lake, but understanding the frequency in which it would be
Right.
used, or not he relies on mutual aid today from Uxbridge or Hopedale because they have one, that might be a consideration.
Okay. That makes sense.
And that was a question
Well,
I had as well.
these
How-
are-
Go ahead.
Small.
This matrix is kind of ignoring those such things, so I think
Yep.
for public safety it should be a 3. When it comes to the details, yes, if there's mutual aid, then of course,
Yeah, no, that's
So
a good point.
we'll bring the chief on Monday to
yeah.
So I'm gonna hop off at 8:30.
What do we have?
So
What
we've got irrigation.
We already did irrigation.
So Memorial Rec Building is a kind of defer in my anticipation deferred.
Yeah, it's, in my mind, it's as well, back to Mike's earlier point, we don't know what we're doing with buildings. And there's options go anywhere from 400,000 to 100,000, so.
In terms of third floor climate controls, so to humanize this, we have 2 offices on the third floor, or third floor, the upper floor, and then we have the meeting room where select board, where James and Mike Goddard are sat right now, that don't have regular climate control. And that makes them uncomfortable for most months out of the year. So this is a priority for me to at least get, mini splits or, whatever it is, climate controls in these rooms. So regulatory mandate is high in terms of the regular, temperature we can provide to employees. So
Are we actually breaking like OSHA regulations by not having a climate controlled area?
yeah, and I don't know those well enough to say that's a 3, but it's a 2. If I say what does my staff need to do to perform at their normal, do you want to be in a 60-degree or 90-degree temperature at any point in your professional career? Probably not.
Have I got, never mind.
I mean, if you want to boil it down to like safe conditions for your employees, that's kind of a mandate.
yeah,
And the next
So
one's
it-
a 3, right?
yeah, it's very important to me.
Yeah, next one's a 3.
I'm not laughing at you. I am just recollecting my military service, so I completely agree with you. Keep.
Wasn't there an earlier statement, if it's important to Jeremy, it's number one?
It's number one.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeremy, you missed one. Driving operational efficiency. They can't work at 90 degrees temperature. They gotta go up to 2 at least.
I
There you
agree.
go. All right, we'll go to there.
32.
Sorry.
Don't
Um,
apologize, you're good.
okay.
So yeah, this is important. This is important to me. I say to a lot of folks, I want to make the town a place where I would want to work. And if
Remember when you hear that again.
yeah, if they're sweating or freezing, that's not
Okay.
doing it for me.
What's the cost of that? Any idea, Jeremy?
I mean, we're talking probably about 10 grand each, 8 grand each to acclimatize a space.
So what are we looking at?
So-
3 areas, 2 areas, 4 areas?
Yeah, so we're probably and you get a operational efficiency, so maybe in the 20s to do the big one, and then lower 8s to do the other. So under 40 to do 3 spaces.
Okay, so 40K roughly, right? Under.
But what it's worth, every office building I've ever been in has hot offices and freezing cold offices, and everybody complains. So, I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, so
every building has its issues.
the 2 spaces I'm talking about are using space heaters with extension cords to make
I
them
know.
climate controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business, if we get the window ACs out of this large room, that's actually gonna do wonders for meetings and recordings.
Yeah. So in terms of like sound quality for public meetings,
It all makes sense. Do we have enough it should be visible. And in our discussions, we should say it's important. It comes up to what, roughly 31?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That'll get high.
yeah, and it's also the kind of thing where like we could just do anyway.
I agree.
And then bringing it to this committee is the better way to do it. So we'll establish a fund. We'll get quotes, and then establish a fund to be able to do it.
Memorial Park expansion, is that the next one?
Yes, it is. And that one. Just trying to see. He's got that for 2027. Expand the parking area around the playgrounds.
Yeah,
Yes.
that one.
Estimates on numbers and size that we might be able to get. But
Maybe when Dan comes, he can give us more definition. There's not much there. No dollars.
and
And
I was
so
Go ahead.
these couple have CPA funds associated with them, self-service kayak rental, and then Cape Road master water meter replacement. That's to do. I asked all folks to say agnostic of your funding source, put it on the capital plan. So that's what this is. This is not require general fund money. It will be paid for by the water enterprise fund.
okay, that's great.
What's a kayak and the water meter?
Yep.
So the kayak will be paid for by CPA funds.
Okay.
And then the water meter will be paid for by water enterprise funds.
Okay.
It not necessarily in this meeting, because we're butting up in 2 hours, but you should think about those as they fit in with the general capital plan, but they do not require general fund monies to do those.
I would like to get closer look at CPA just in general, but that's a personal thing.
And yeah, we should know as a group what those cost. As we should get quotes for those things. Same with beach bathroom upgrades. We don't currently have quotes for that. But it's something that the general fund should be contemplating. So these are all new things. Library computer replacement. So I kept this on here, but so the current IT vendor, their contract is up this June 30th. So part of what I'm asking them now and what I would be asking a new IT vendor is to do a replacement schedule, to do a inventory, and then say, what is it we want to replace and when. So I commend the library for thinking about their hardware in this way. But I want that to be a broader town-wide discussion. What do we want? You know, capital hardware to look like. So this is an important question, but I want to table that and say, let's make that a town-wide discussion, not a library-wide discussion going forward.
They would give the library gets the first new PCs or laptops. You're
I'll
right.
remember that.
I would.
And actually, Jeremy, if I can make life a little easier, out of everything else that's on that list for library stuff, the one thing to really kind of chat about is the septic. But that all being said, there's kind of short-term septic fixes, but that's also hinged on whether we do or don't do any upgrades or fixes to the rectory. Because if we do fixes on the rectory down the road, obviously changes to the septic would occur at that point as well. The other ones are for a couple of fiscal years out, so I don't think there's anything else on that. I would recommend deferring those until we have a better understanding of those. And I can talk to Andrew about that so that he's aware.
Yeah, thanks for making most of my points, James. As I talked to Andrew earlier, as we talk about capital writ large, I appreciate the library saying these are things that are out year processes, and I would prefer folks to think in that way on non-library assets, right? I want to know what town hall, I want to know what town hall annex and the highway barn and everything like that looks like in 5 years. But in terms of what we're talking about for a special town meeting this coming cycle, that we're not going to do the roof right now. So thanks for that. And as we talk about computers in the periphery and that specific question, we're going to put that into our procurement of an IT vendor going forward. So thanks for that.
That's what I'm here for.
There you go.
And looking at what we've accomplished, I don't know that there's much else we should or want to try to take off this evening. Anything else on your docket, Phil?
The only thing that's still there are the couple projects we haven't talked about, the COA, which are current safety issues in the current building. And I don't know how you want to handle them, Jeremy. There's 63,000, which we request to come in 2026. I guess I get confused with the years, but the back porch and roof needs to be replaced. And there's not an egress on the second floor, and that was 23,000. And there's a parking lot somewhere that we should be talking about, which will cost approximately $200,000 to use an acre attached. Those are our squishy things, Jeremy, until we understand what we're going to do with the path forward.
Yeah, this is some pricey, squishy things, Phil.
Uh,
So
But there are safety issues. So I don't want to say that, so hopefully we understand where we're gonna go as a town. Because if we're not going in the near term, we need to address these.
yeah, so I
It's $300,000.
yeah, I'm pretty confident in saying that a new senior and community center will not be on the ballot this coming fall or this coming spring. Um, so
That is-
we will you know, whether it's the next coming fall is the policy question. But I think from an administrative sense, having those projects as queued up is not in our best interest in terms of kind of administrative priority and in terms of the most fiscally responsible way to go about them. And then wait until fall of 26 to say, is this something that the electorate supports or not?
We also can't say the word safety issue
Well,
without
strangely enough,
knowing whether or not it is a safety issue. If an engineer has determined something's a safety issue, that's a different story.
well, I guess I would like to have that engineering study done. The contractor who came in and looked at the porch, describing the dry rot that's there. 2x6 joists instead of 2x12s on 16 center. No egress out of a second floor exit. So if there was an issue on the first floor, you couldn't get people out. Those are clearly safety issues.
I'm not disagreeing. I just want to make sure that the town, like, if it's a clear code safety issue, we
We need to
need
address it.
to increase the priority of something like that versus deferring it.
I agree.
But we also can't throw out the word safety issue without having a licensed individual or code enforcement officer or somebody saying it's an actual safety issue, or the fire department saying it's a safety issue. You can't just put it into a town document saying it's a safety issue with no backup for it. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Jeremy, somewhere along the line, operationally in your budget, or if we need to put it before the free cash, is to get someone to do a safety assessment of the building then. Because people are, the concern I have is we use the lot across the street. Like every other week I get someone said, somebody stopped on the newly painted lines that they put on the road. That was very good.
Yeah,
So
I just want to make sure that the parking lot has nothing to do with the egress or
No,
the deck,
well,
right?
there's still a parking safety issue there. We can solve that. We can put details out there. And that's a different expense.
Which we budgeted for. And I just want to say it's not my budget, but the town budgeted for that in fiscal 26, right? To have details.
One or two occurrences. There's probably 6 to 7 times they need it.
So those are great points, Bill. I want to break those down into a couple of things so we don't stretch this out too long. For the second story evaluation for the dry rot concern and what you're talking about, we have a building inspector in town. That doesn't cost us anything to send them over there to do an assessment. For an evacuation assessment, our fire chief or fire lieutenant can do that again at no cost. And that's something we should get lined up immediately. That's something Amy can call and have done tomorrow, or get it scheduled to make sure someone comes out there. If we're not meeting a budget, if we're not getting the right safety staff to do the street work we need, the crossing street, and we're asking for it and they're not fulfilling, then that's a department head issue that we need to address between them if the town's already allocated funds.
Yeah, it's a dual issue, because the budget that was allocated was negotiated. And the department, I don't want to dive down this issue. My point, Jeremy, is the building is going to get deferred for a number of years. The current building is inoperable for a number of reasons, including safety, in my opinion. Once we get an assessment, we'll have a professional state that. We need to address it, and we need to address the plan quickly rather than defer to a meeting 2 years from now. The process of this building has been going on for 10 years, and I'm biased at this point, and then I'll shut up. I don't want to just lose that from the Capital Planning Commission, because we have at least $300,000 worth of needs on the current building that's there. There's another need to figure out what we're going to do long-term. And if long-term's 4 to 5 years out, we have a $300,000 nut that we need to crack in the short term.
Yeah, and that needs to be measured against everything we talked about tonight.
Agreed. Agreed. And that's why I want to put a priority set around it rather than defer. Because defer means it gets deferred until next year. The 300,000.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's been a useful exercise tonight, in terms of what the town's priorities are. And I think this committee's been useful, and we'll invite department heads for next Monday. So I'll send that email out tomorrow. So I'll invite the fire chief, the police chief, the highway surveyor, the senior services director, and everybody else we talked about tonight to talk about their priorities for next Monday.
Jeremy, curious for your perspective. Last thing for me is everything I brought up had more to do sort of with a long-term strategy. So it's maybe discussions on everybody in the community's been privy to. Our goal setting as a select board, things like that. Sure. So I don't know, Jeremy, if from a prioritization standpoint, is there a town strategy weight in there that you could speak to on behalf of the board so that if people aren't aware of what we're focused on in the near term or multi-years, they get a sense from it? But I do think like the fire assessment, I'm speaking to staff, I'm thinking about staffing requests that has nothing to do with the building, but I know there's a building potential need due to staffing requests. So I think if we're looking as a board or the town has a strategy in place, land inventory, use application.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, can you be the person to bring that to this committee to speak to what the board and we as a board and the TA have sort of start to lay out as a multi-year strategy?
Yeah, I will certainly share those goals. So I'll share the select board's goals. And I think they tie in well, not uniformly, but I think they tie in well with this committee's goals going forward. Yeah, I will share that first thing tomorrow.
Great. Thank you.
I know we are short on time, but Carl, you do have your hand up very quickly.
Before we close, can we see the spreadsheet and see if what bubbled up to the top just from the evaluations that happened tonight?
I do not have access to be able to share that, so I apologize.
Can you see it?
Yep. We should have summary score if you don't mind.
We didn't get through everything, but so things that have zeros, I feel you should take with a grain of salt. We didn't get there or we passed over. But the things that were most important, Providence Street Kohler. So I feel like I unfairly steered this analysis. But Providence Street Kohler, third floor climate analysis, and then from there on, I feel like it's a pretty generous or pretty reasonable analysis.
We have a graphic example on Northbridge Road going into Uxbridge of what happens when a major road gets cut down. I can't go to a lot of stores that I used to without taking an extra half hour. So Providence Street would be a whole lot worse.
Yep, absolutely.
No question about it. No question. About it.
And with that, Phil, if you're okay with it, I'll put forward a motion to adjourn.
Yes, I second.
And roll call vote, oh, sorry, Phil, you should do that, I apologize.
Yeah, Phil Sipley, yes, roll call vote, Phil Sipley. Adjourn.
James
Jesse
Fett,
Curley.
aye.
Jesse Curley.
Awesome. And that means we are adjourned at 8:32.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks for everybody's time tonight.
Thank you for your assistance. Apologize for the hiccups.
No, I'm kind of, I think the whole strategy, I think that should be on the matrix.